Good to go.
Awesome.
All right.
Yay!
Welcome, everyone. So welcome to our Friday Tech Talk. And today we have Regina Fleming here with us, and they're going to talk about finding your path in tech. I know that some of you are still in the boot camp, or you might have just recently graduated. So she's going to give us a lot of tips. And she's actually been in your place before. She actually graduated from the Tech Academy. So we're really excited to have her. But thank you for being here, and take it away.
Awesome. And thank you so much for having me. A couple of disclaimers before we hop in. I will be looking over here quite a bit just because I have two monitors and I have my presentation open on one. So bear with me. I'm not ignoring you or talking to the wall, I promise. So yeah, exactly what you were saying. I actually graduated from the Tech Academy. I went to the front end development course, which was amazingly helpful. I came from a non-technical background. So if you're coming from that place, trust me, this is completely doable. Even though sometimes when you're in it, it doesn't feel like it. And you feel that panicky feeling of like, what have I done? You can definitely do it. As I was sharing with a couple of you earlier, I actually grew up on a farm in Kentucky. The most access to technology that I had was, some of you will know what I'm talking about, some of you might not, the bunny ear antennas that used to be on top of TVs. Adjusting the aluminum foil on them to increase the signal for the 2 channels that we got was the extent of my technical background. Some of you can Google what bunny ears are later for your TVs, but yeah, that was about it. So some of the things that we're going to go over today are kind of finding your path in technology. And along this journey, some of the things that came up for me, at least, that were kind of surprising, that maybe wasn't necessarily mentioned in like the catalogs or on your favorite YouTuber channel or things like that. And I'm hoping that sharing that journey with you will maybe save you a little bit of the time and burning that I went through to get to where I am today. And we'll kind of talk about where that is in just a moment as well. So without further ado, let's help you find your path in tech. So a little bit of a background about me. I have worked in a lot of different industries. I've moved 25 times. I've been in the military. I have worked in the medical field. I have worked in laboratories, retail, gaming. I actually worked for Screenix for a little while for the release of Final Fantasy XIV, but not as anything super involved or in the technology. I was just customer support. But I will gladly put that down as a fun disclaimer because it was just kind of a neat thing to do in my life. I've been a special effects makeup artist. I worked in agriculture. I worked in real estate, and I've worked in property management. And so I come from this really broad kind of background. And basically my reason for going over all of that is, there is literally something that you can pull out of every experience that you have that you can apply somewhere else. And also to just kind of show that if you want to try something new, just go do it. Like if you are in a situation where you're not really sure if you're happy there and you want to try something out, just go try it. I think that all of this journey that's on the screen right now led me to where I am today, which is where I'm actually really happy. So just go for it. Just jump is my advice here. So a couple of things that we're going to be going over today is how to even start this journey. I mean, obviously, some of you have already made that first step, which honestly is the hardest one. So congratulations, you're kind of over that big hurdle. You've got a great support team behind you right now. I'm very familiar with the Tech Academy team, so bravo for that. Common frustrations and how to overcome them, LinkedIn tips, interviewing like a boss, and you got the job. We're going to go ahead and do a little dream weaving about you've got the job and what happens next. And then a little bit of looking into the future. So basically kind of where to start, what to do when you're in the process of finding this new career. And then a little bit more than some other things you might see so far is now that you've got the job, what next? You know, we don't really just want to cross the finish line and stop running on this. So where to start, and I make no apologies for my donuts and cookies. You are all going to probably leave here hungry, but love them. So I think the biggest thing about where to start is remembering that where you start is not where you have to finish. So when I went through the Tech Academy, I went through front end development and I learned HTML and I thought, yes, I have got this. I learned CSS and I thought, whew, man, that was tough, but I've got this. This is fine. JavaScript, y'all rocked my world. I was literally sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop, with my head in my hands, going, what have I done? And you know what? I got through it. Again, thanks to the really good support from the Tech Academy. I have to give a big shout out to all of my instructors. I literally passed because one of the instructors graded my last assignment at like 10 o'clock at night. Otherwise, I was going to be like another 2 weeks out and have to repeat part of the process. So you've chosen a great team. And just remembering that, again, where you start and where you are today, it's going to feel hard and it's not the end of your story. I actually ended up not doing front end development after I left the Tech Academy. However, it was that experience and that terminology and that knowledge that actually got me to where I am. So, steps. Just take a step. Just do something. I am an overthinker. Full disclaimer, everybody in my life knows this about me, to the point of when I was thinking about what to do with my career, I was like thinking 20 years out. Like, okay, I've got to really make a good choice here because what I choose to do and what I choose to go to school with, I need to know what I'm going to do 20 years from now with that. It's never going to happen that way. And if it does, play the lottery because I guarantee you will win. Your life and the way things are going to go, it's going to change. And the best way to do it is to just take the first step. Because if you stay where you are, nothing is going to change. And so I just kind of on a whim was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. Because I had been in a job for 10 years, the property management position, where literally it had gotten to the point where Pepto-Bismol owes me money because I woke up sick every morning that I had to go do this job. And it was really stressful because the property manager that I was I would go into communities that had deferred maintenance and criminal activity, and I would fix these properties up so that they could be sold. Then I would pack my family up and I would move to the next community, sometimes in another state. I have kicked in doors with the police. I had my own police liaison. I have had people spit in my face. This was a horrible position I was in. Most property managers last 1 year. I stayed there for 10 because I was afraid of this first step. It's amazing how you can get comfortable in your misery. Like, this sucks, but I know how to deal with this. Your brain does not want to learn new things or try new things, and we'll go over that a little bit later on. But when I got let go at the beginning of COVID, I was sitting there at the table and my husband told me, look, it's okay to cry. Like, you can be upset about this. And I wasn't. I was so relieved that kind of fate had ended this story for me that I was afraid to end myself. And so now it started becoming my story. And so I started looking into tech. I'd always had a great interest in it, although I had been heavily discouraged by people in my life to ever actually give it a chance. And so I found the Tech Academy actually because one of my good friends who was encouraging, her husband actually graduated from the Tech Academy and had been successful. He's like, Regina, just give it a try. Like, this doesn't have to be your forever. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So I reached out to the Tech Academy and I started. Again, like I said, that's step one. So with that, I also recommend something that some people don't recommend, and that's go down the YouTube rabbit hole. And the reason I say that is because the current role that I'm in right now, I didn't even know that role existed or that it was an option. And the reason I happened to come across it was because I was actually looking up something completely different and the video ended and I was doing something else and the next video automatically started. I'm sure you've all probably experienced that. And sometimes that video has like nothing to do with what you were watching. But at least this one was in the ballpark. And it was a talk and it's called Mind the Product is the name of the event. And the Mind the Product event is amazing. It's a group of amazing thinkers that think about how to create new product, such as different softwares for people to use and things like that. And I was so interested in it that I just kept watching it and watching it. And it really resonated with my current role at the time with my company as an implementation manager. So when they had already developed the software, I would take that software and then I would actually train and set people up to use it. So by the time I got my hands on it, it was already built and done pretty much. And I thought, gosh, like I feel like with my knowledge of our users and such, that I could be a really integral part of like this back here part. This while they're still talking about it, while they're still building it out, knowing what I know about our users. So I'm nosy. So I started talking to our development team and asking if I could just be a part of the conversations they were having back here. And they said yes. And oh my gosh, I went down that YouTube rabbit hole so hard on product development and just like notes. And just, I got so passionate about it. And I actually started looking forward to learning about it. And that's when I knew I had finally, after taking my first step and being pretty happy with how it resulted and what the outcome was with it as an implementation manager, that this is what I was passionate about. This is what I wanted to rock. And so I actually spoke to my company. I told them about it. This role didn't exist. And they said, yeah, we definitely need something like that. And I was like, okay, great. So what does that look like? And they said, well, we really don't know. Why don't you just kind of come up with a job summary of what you're thinking? And basically they told me to create my own title. So here we are. And now I am head of product development and implementation with my company. So what that means is, as the software is even in the thought process of like, should we build this? Is there a need for it? What need will it satisfy? Before any code is laid out, I am part of that process. And then my awesome developers, I work with them to kind of build these products out. And then I also get to roll them out to my customers, which helps me kind of life cycle back to, as we're developing our next products, making sure that those decisions that we make are beneficial for our users, which I know very well because of this implementation step. So what are some things that you could work on right now? Now, you're already probably in the process of learning new things. I'm not sure where you're all at in your stages with the Tech Academy, but something that you can use anywhere. So if you're learning something right now and you're not sure if that's like your big plan, are phone skills, which is amazing how much of a lost art this is. And I will tell you right now, as someone who has interviewed people to hire them with our company, a lot of your first conversations are going to either be over the phone or like this, which these phone skills can actually transfer to these conversations as well. And when I picked up the phone with my last person that I interviewed, and we were 2 minutes into the conversation, I knew I had a rock star on my hands, because they were going to have to communicate with my users, and I needed somebody who had those strong communication skills. And that phone was the first impression that I had of those skills from them. So I recommend that you practice your phone skills. And we'll go into a little bit about how to do that with some resources in just a minute. Also, research. I'm sure you've probably heard this already from the Tech Academy, because I do remember it being part of my training, is that as a developer, it is an amazing skill to have to not know the answer, but know where to find it. And it's a huge percentage of a developer's job to go out there and basically borrow from other coders who've already laid the groundwork for you, to speak to other people about, hey, I'm having this issue. How did you guys resolve it? If you don't have the answer, because you're not always going to, being able to find it and process and work through how to get to it, super key. I will tell you right now that my ability to research and find solutions to things is 80% at least of why I have the job that I have today. I actually create my role still daily, every day. Like I'm learning about APIs and connectivity between outside vendors and partners that I've never worked with before in my life, but I'm making it happen because of this skill. This is huge. Information and task tracking. I will tell you right now that on my team of developers, they're amazing. They are wonderful, but sometimes it is hurting cats. You have a lot of people that are working on individual products and projects on a team. Having a person that's like that middle person that can sit down and say, Brian, I see that you've got 2 hours available of work time. We can fit this project in here for you. And then Lena, we can do this for you. Olivia, we can do this for you. So that everything's not ending up on one person's plate and overwhelmed, where this person over here may actually have some availability, is a great skill that every team needs somebody who can do that for them. And the fact that you are coming from a technical education now, and that you have the working knowledge of how some of these teams work and what's involved in what they're doing, will make you a tremendous asset. So some of the things that I learned for task tracking, and one of my favorites was Trello. I really like Trello. It's a great project management tool. Monday.com is also really helpful. Azure DevOps is actually what my team uses right now. Jira, Confluence. And then if you're working with any UX UI teams, Figma is also really nice to learn as well. And so you can actually just go watch a few YouTube channels on these. I believe that pretty much all of them are free to use on like a base level, except for like Azure DevOps. You may have to look a little bit more into how to set that up for yourself. But you can actually even join like Trello groups on LinkedIn where they share tips, tricks, codes, things like that. And then the great thing is a lot of these tools have been in use for so long that they have an amazing kind of document database where you can go in and get information about how to use them. A new one that's come up, and it's not super new, but it's really new how it's kind of hitting the industry now, is Miro. And that's a really great connectivity and task tracking tool as well. So I recommend that maybe you just kind of check some of those out. If you want to connect with me after, by the way, to kind of go over that list again, I'm more than happy. I will share my contact information at the bottom, at the end of this. Another one is soft skills. And I think that this kind of goes back to kind of that phone skills and that communication is in development. It's very easy, especially if you're coding, to kind of forget who you're coding for and to remember to put empathy and consideration of who is using your product into your code. Soft skills is a great way to do that. When you're talking to other developers, you know, it makes things easier. It makes it great if you can work well with the person that you're coding with. Nothing is worse than a bad work relationship. But also kind of having that empathy and that sympathy and those pain points in your mind as you're kind of developing and building things for your users is very important. If you are planning on being a developer, I recommend that you look into the industry that you end up coding for. And the great way to do that is you go to some of the locations that utilize your software. If you can, if this is an option, Google them and read reviews about what their customers are saying about them and what kind of interactions that they're having with the software. If you want to find any complaints or pain points, online is a great place to find them because everybody goes on there anytime they have a problem. So that can maybe be a way, if you can't have any kind of user one-on-one interactions or interviews, to kind of identify some of those pain points. Common frustrations and how to overcome them. As you're changing your career, these are some of the things that surprised me. First of all is the jealousy. And I don't say jealousy as in like the traditional way of like, where I don't like you anymore because you're being really successful at this. It can be, you know, like some of us were talking earlier, come from a place of love. So when I decided I was going to get into tech as my little non-tech farm girl self, I actually got really discouraged by some of the people in my life. I actually had one person kind of chuckle and go, "Are you sure you're smart enough for that?" Wow. Yes, I am. And if I'm not, I will Google how to be. But it's interesting because you're going to already have these kind of seeds of doubt in your mind and these worries and these concerns as you're going into it. And then when somebody else says those things, it's weird how it can resonate with you. Just be prepared for that. I think that being prepared for it and not letting it catch you off guard, like maybe it did for me, will be beneficial. And then just remembering that you're going to have bad days. There are going to be days where you feel like you can't do this. There's going to be days where you feel like you're failing. And there's going to be days that you just don't feel like even trying, whether it's applying for new positions or it's learning or, things like that. You're going to have them. But that doesn't mean that has to stop your journey. Nothing can stop you except you. Unfortunately, you are your loudest voice. So be kind to yourself. Silence and ghosting. Oh my gosh. As you're applying for jobs, you are going to send out hundreds of resumes. Now, don't get me wrong. I hope you all send out one and get a job right away. But is that going to happen? Well, again, you should maybe play the lottery if it does, but I do hope the best for you. You're going to send out hundreds of resumes. And I honestly think that the silence, okay, that's fine. You're going to get a bunch of like the emails where it says, unfortunately. You just kind of scan for that one word when you open it, right? It's like, unfortunately, we've had many qualified applicants and you are not one of them. Thank you so much. Goodbye. But don't worry, we'll consider you in the future. Yeah, right. But I think the worst part was the ghosting. So I would actually do interviews and I would get out of them and I was like, oh man, I feel like I really nailed that. I feel like I did really good. And then never hear anything back again. That was the worst. And again, there's nothing wrong with reaching out to someone that you interviewed with and saying, hey, I haven't heard from you in 2 weeks. At this point, I'm going to assume maybe you've moved on in the process. Is there any way that you could just provide me some feedback so I can do better in the future? I will tell you that I've only ever received one email back from that, but I will tell you that the feedback I received in it was really helpful. So, just do your due diligence, apply, and just keep trying and don't let these things stop you. Another thing is showing yourself a little bit of grace. You don't know. Why would you? So whenever I was actually in a meeting the other day, someone asked me, oh, hey, Regina, how does that work? I had no idea. That's okay. Why would I? You're going through things right now where you're learning things and you're sitting down in front of a line of code and you have this expected outcome and it doesn't work. And you may think, oh my gosh, why isn't it working? I am failing. I am doing so bad. I actually I have someone I coach right now that's switching careers and they're trying to become a data analyst. And they could not figure out how to open this file. And that sounds super simple to them. And they were so discouraged because they're like, Regina, if I can't even figure out how to open a file, how am I going to do this career? And I asked them, well, have you ever done that before? Like seen that file type before? And the answer was no. Okay, well then why would you expect yourself to know how to do that? We are so hard on ourselves, y'all. Like, why would you expect yourself to know something that you have never learned before? It's uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that you're failing. And then a huge one, oh my gosh, imposter syndrome. This will be with you for the rest of your career. I promise you, right when you think you've got everything and you are the rock star and you are number one and you could run this company, something is going to come along to knock you right on your behind. And you're going to think, my gosh, like, do I even know this? Can I even do this job? Am I suited for this job? I think I'm letting this company down. And you're not, I promise you. Like, it's okay. No one out there is going to know everything, and no one expects you to know everything. I actually had a conversation with the head of our IT, who has been with the company that I'm with right now for 15 years. And literally, he was having an imposter syndrome day where he just felt like he was laying the company down because he cares so much. So I wanted to share a little bit about one of my worst times with imposter syndrome, where I just felt slammed about myself. I mentioned earlier that I had worked in the nursery industry, and that's not children, that's agriculture. And so I worked for a large box tree grower. So they grow giant trees basically in boxes so that they can ship them. So We grew like giant palm trees for like the casinos in Vegas or resorts in Dubai that were installed basically with like helicopters and cranes. Like this was a large operation. And I worked outside at one of the grow yards, and I really wanted to make a change in my career. I got this amazing opportunity and this interview in Orange County, California, which, if any of you are familiar with, is very, very fancy. And I went over there dressed in my best clothes, and I walked into the building. I did the interview. And as I was walking out, I was like, gosh, I don't know if I'm qualified. Like I was just bad, already in the imposter syndrome mindset. And then I saw something that broke my heart. And I'm going to show you what it is. They had just paved their parking lot. I don't know if you can see that, but that is my car with my dusty, dirty footprints leading from the car into the building. Because I had gotten in and out of that car so many times with my shoes covered in mud from working outside in the wind and the rain and the just everything else, that even though I constantly cleaned my car, I could not get this dust and this dirt out. And so here I am, dressed in my best in one of the fanciest communities in the area, walking from this like job interview that I was worried about not being good enough for. And that was there. I was so embarrassed. I just got in my car and left. But guess what? I did get that job. And my car was very clean after that. So just remember, things like this are just randomly going to come up. It's just you. It's just you talking to yourself and how you're treating yourself. It does not mean that you're not good enough for something. So let's go over some LinkedIn tips, because I feel like a lot of people utilize LinkedIn. I recommend not utilizing only one platform when applying for jobs. But I'm specifically highlighting LinkedIn because I'm going to use it and show you a way to actually build a profile and flesh out your resume to actually kind of trigger some keyword searches as you send your resume in that are a little bit tricky, and I like them. So the first one is I want you to go on LinkedIn and I want you to search for a job that you're interested in. So, here's product lead, for example. This one has a great salary, by the way. I would not mind being okay with this job. And I want you to see this section right here where it says skills. It says communication, JIRA, plus 8 more. You're going to click on that plus 8 more, and another little window is going to open up here. These are the skills that they have selected that they would like to see an applicant have. I only reached 3 of them. Dang it. Out of 50. You can choose 50 skills. And that's on your main page down at the bottom. It's going to ask you what skills you want to highlight on your LinkedIn. So out of the 50 that I have selected as a head of product, only 3 of them match what this company was actually looking for. Now, the reason for that is that I kind of highlighted more technical things, like I use JIRA, I use Confluence, the things that we kind of mentioned earlier. They were looking for user stories, employee benefits for some reason was one of the matching things. Yes, I would like those. I don't include it on my resume. I just assume that you're going to offer some sort of benefit. Creative problem solving. So these are all the things that they're looking for. I could actually go, before I apply for this position, back to my main page there, scroll down to skills and add these. And you can actually add them from here. I just couldn't because it's grayed out, because I already had 50 and 50 as the max. But before you apply, you could actually go down this list and hit add to your skills, and it would show that you were a 100% match for this position for them. Now, I don't recommend obviously clicking add if it's not a skill that you actually have, but I do recommend looking at this because they do phrase it in different ways. So I have customer service, for example, on mine, but some of them word it differently. They will say like customer relations. So it's kind of a verbiage thing. So you can kind of go in before you send your application into these to kind of cater this to match what they're looking for. I also recommend that as you're going through this, if you go through maybe like 10, you kind of do a little bit of a case study here. and you see the same skills repeated multiple times, write those down. And then I recommend what you do is go through on your resume and add those to your resume so that when you submit your resume, it will pop up in their keyword search. Because some of these locations get like hundreds of applications for a position, and they actually have systems in place that will scan resumes to see who's a match on those keywords. So you can actually use that as a way to really kind of glamp up your resume. It's also a good thing of like what your next steps should be as you're growing your career. You can say, oh, like 15 of these have said that they want Jira. Maybe I should go check out some videos about that, or maybe take a short free course on it so that I am up to date on it and I can actually add that to my resume. So I recommend too in LinkedIn that you give LinkedIn Learning a try. Usually they give away kind of like a free week or a free month sometimes, and you'll get like random email offers. Every time they get those free ones to me, I always take advantage of them, because what I do is I will log in, and LinkedIn Learning has this cool feature where you can search for what kind of courses you're looking for. But the thing I like about it is you can also sort by course length. So you can get anywhere from a course that's like an hour long to a week long to a month long. So if I have a week with it, I will look for one that's maybe only a week long. Or if I'm like, ooh, I really just want to ramp up my LinkedIn, I will do like 15 1-hour courses, and I will just slap all those certifications right onto my main LinkedIn page. So as you finish it, you'll get a certificate. You can literally hit, I think, 1 or 2 buttons, and it will actually display on your LinkedIn and be visible for employers that are looking at your profile. I recommend that you follow some of the professionals on there for free tips and tricks. It's much like YouTube kind of influencers and things like that. And you can just kind of see what they recommend. I've gotten great like shortcuts for Excel, SQL items, because I'm trying to learn SQL right now for my position. And I've learned so many things where somebody's like, hey, did you guys know you could do this? No, I did not, but I will take that. Thank you very much. And you can look up other ways to use LinkedIn. So you can go on and see kind of like what other people are doing and what they're successful. When you go to their profiles, look at it as like a fresh way and see kind of what stands out to you whenever you're looking at it. And maybe you kind of want to reflect those things on yours as well. Some of those things, of course, are choosing a really good profile picture, add a background photo, make your headline more than just a job title. So like mine says my job title and then I'm a super elite gamer because I also want to get into the gaming industry someday. And you can also put like your story into your summary. Your summary can be kind of your initial first impression to this person. So don't just make it like I want a job that pays me lots of money, even though that is very true. You can start it off that way if you want to, and they may say, wow, honest. But you can go in there and kind of put like what your goals are, where you want to be in 10 years or 5 years or 3 minutes, or what you're interested in and things like that, and kind of make it more personal and basically make it an introduction to yourself instead of just a summary. Another thing you can do is you can actually take skill assessments on LinkedIn. And this is something that employers absolutely do look at, because what will happen is sometimes as you apply for a position on LinkedIn, you will get an invitation to take an assessment, and it will actually tag, you can see here in this one, for example, under your skills and endorsements, that you passed the skill assessment for that. And if you apply to another job that has that skill assessment, it will automatically notify the employer, hey, by the way, this person's already passed the skill assessment. So it just kind of gives you like a one step further than most people do for them. And endorsements. The great thing is that you are all in school together right now. If you all communicated with each other and made LinkedIn profiles, you could all go in and endorse each other. What that means is basically like Regina pops up on her LinkedIn that she has experience putting together groups or, you know, things like that. Everyone on this channel right now could go to her LinkedIn and say, yep, endorse. And you has like 11 people endorse Regina. So 11 people have said, we know she can do this skill, and we verify that we worked with her doing it. And it looks really good. It's basically kind of like whenever you would apply for jobs in the past and they would ask for like a letter of recommendation, you've got like 11 people confirming that you have this skill. Interview like a boss. I can't just say it normal. Sorry, not sorry. So research your recruiter, the CEO, and the company before you call. So one of the things that really kind of I ask right off the gate when I'm interviewing somebody is, tell me what you know about this role in the company. And I ask that for two reasons. First of all, I kind of want to know where to start in my story because I want them to have a clear expectation of who they're applying for and what their role is, but also to see if they even care enough to look up the company. And I will tell you, I have had some people that did not prepare for the interview. The answer to it was no, but you can tell me. And when I asked them why they wanted the job, they literally said, well, it's because I want to work from home and just not have to drive and things like that. Like there was no interest in the role, what we were doing, anything. And it's great, don't fake it. It's going to reflect if you fake it. But if you do want the job, which if you want a paycheck, or if you actually really do want this position, then at least take a few minutes to actually research what you're applying for. To make sure that you even want it, and then also to make sure that you can have something to say about and to know what questions you want to ask the interviewer. Watch some videos about public speaking. I think public speaking can make people very, very nervous. And a lot of times people kind of view these types of talks in front of panels of people a little bit nervous. You can find some really great ones on YouTube. There's tons of them. One of the things that I also recommend learning about is something called vocal fry. And it's something that can get reflected in your mannerisms of your speech. As you get nervous and things like, it's almost like a tightening of the throat and you kind of start hitting these tones and things like that. And it can kind of come out with nervousness. And there's ways that you can kind of avoid that to make sure that your voice doesn't sound kind of choked and nervous and things like that. So outside of just public speaking, just maybe check that out. Review common questions for the role. They're on Glassdoor, they're on LinkedIn, they're online, where you can see people have applied for this company for this role. What are some questions that were commonly asked, and prepare answers for that. Practice your answers out loud. Sit in front of the mirror and talk to a person or a friend that you have, but say those answers out loud, because speaking is actually a muscle memory too. So the more times you say something, the more natural it's going to come out. You're going to be fine. You're like, oh yeah, I've got this, not a problem. Let me tell you all about it. Just make sure you don't start talking like an auctioneer just because you're so used to saying it that you start talking really fast. Guilty. Get comfortable not answering questions right away. There's going to be some questions that come up that maybe you're not prepared for, that you don't have an answer. Some people are going to try to give you questions that kind of knock you off guard like that just to see how you respond. Take a moment. That's totally fine to say, you know what, that's a good question. Let me just process that for a second. Or even ask them, I don't have an answer for that right away. Can we circle around to it again at the end? Or do you want to just give me a brief pause? However you want to answer and however you feel comfortable, but get used to being able to take those pauses. Tell me about your background does not mean read your resume out loud to me. That is your time to shine, because your resume is never going to 100% reflect you as an individual and your experience. Take that time to give a measurable accomplishment. I saved the company $50,000 last year by doing this thing. Something you really enjoy about your career field. I love being able to help people, and I love getting to talk to people and get to know them about their families and helping them and knowing that I'm improving their lives. Something about you personally. I'm a huge nerdy gamer. I love TCGs. Have you ever heard of Vanguard? It's amazing. Do you want to talk about it? Connect with your interviewer. Don't make it a sales pitch. Just have a conversation. Mention something in the background like, oh, wow, is that like a monstera back there? I love plants. Or thanks so much for making time for me today. Like, what's the weather like where you're at? Don't make it a sales pitch. And then also remember, interviews go both ways. Whenever you are talking to an interviewer, it's really normal to get nervous and to want to answer all their questions right and things like that. But also be on the receiving end of that, of like, do I want to work for you? Like, is this where I want to spend? Is this going to benefit me? Can I grow here? Things like that. You don't want to go from a situation where you're like, I really need a job, to like, wow, I've got a job and it is making my life miserable. And now I'm going to have to interview for more. So you got the job. Now what? It is really easy to go through hedonic adaptation, which are these elevations and declines in our mood. So as we are interviewing for a job, we're down here, we get the job and we're like way up here, and then we get it and we start to settle in, and then our kind of mood and our happiness and our joy start to kind of decline. It's like that with everything in life. Look up hedonic adaptation and understand why you're having those feelings. They're totally normal. But something to kind of help you in this kind of slide as you start to get comfortable is look for improvements to the company. You will never have your day one experience again. You only get it once. Remember your day one and view everything around you with a fresh perspective. And then just kind of file these things away. You do not want to walk in on day one and be like, wow, your guys' onboarding is just caca. Like, it's bad. Let me tell you all the ways I could fix this company. Don't do that. But just kind of file it away and then use that to look for ways to improve your company. That's exactly how I got the role that I'm in right now. And don't build a career wall. Be open and flexible to potential. Your career is as flexible as you are. I've been with my company for only 2 years now. I have started 3 different departments, and I am in charge of 2 of those because I was flexible and I didn't just want to lock down where I was. I wanted to grow, and my company was willing to let me do that. So hopefully you'll find a company that will let you do that as well. But if they don't, be flexible, continue to learn. Don't let that stop your growth potential. Make your boss's job easier is the #1 way to get promoted. If you can take something off of your boss's plate, which is exactly what I did, that is the easiest way to move into something new. Now, I'm not saying like hey, boss, let me send all 15 emails that you need to send out today. I'm talking like actual career building things where it seems like we're really struggling here, or maybe there's room for improvement here. How can I help that process? And hopefully you have a boss that's receptive to that. I have never said no to someone wanting to make my life easier. Learn, attend seminars, and network with others, especially if you work from home. If you work from home, it is so easy to just kind of be in the moment and forget like what you've accomplished and forget what you've learned and things like that. And that imposter syndrome can kick in really easily. Where that comes in is when you talk to others in your industry, or maybe people who are just entering into tech, and helping them and being a mentor for them, where it's like, wow, gosh, like I have something to talk about here. I've learned a lot through this process. And then attending seminars with people who are years ahead of you in your industry and just like, wow, I'm motivated. I want to work with these people. And I never thought I could do that way, or getting a fresh perspective on stuff. Again, don't just lock down where you are. Like, I really hope that you guys continue to grow because like I said earlier, you've already taken the hardest first step. And then looking to the future. Don't worry about what you choose today. You can do something else tomorrow. And that's kind of like what we talked about in the beginning too. Like if you are not happy where you're at right now, or you're not sure, or you're uncertain, just keep in mind, you can always change this. Grow your own role. See if in your company, if there is room for your own role, or maybe you can expand something out or make something your own. Make a side hustle. Everybody does that right now. Make a YouTube channel. Make something that you feel good about, whether it's with your current employer or on your own. I can't stress enough, you guys make sure that you're happy with what you're doing. And if it's not your job, create something else where you can be happy. Improving your strengths and finding out what you like and grow those skills. If you're in a role where maybe you're not super comfortable, or you are really comfortable, take the things that you really enjoy and grow those. Because you already really enjoy them, make them your bread and butter. Be the #1. Be the Pokemon trainer of that skill. You want to be the very best, like no one ever was. Told you I was nerdy. It's okay. And then ask yourself what's next, and check in with yourself as your situation changes, because what's next for you is going to change as you go through your story. And remember, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. It's one of my favorite quotes because where we are right now can make us who we are today. It doesn't have to define us tomorrow. And sometimes we have to let go of things over here. Sometimes that can be a job or a position, but a lot of times I feel what can help you become what you're going to be next is letting go and working through of the people that are in your life that we mentioned earlier with the jealousy or the discouragement, letting go of the bad days, letting go of the times that you have the imposter syndrome, and being okay with that you're feeling those feelings and embracing them and understanding them, but then letting them go so that you can continue to move past them. So I know that we're about 10 minutes left. And so I just wanted to kind of put my information on here because I feel like there's a lot of things that we kind of rushed through in this that we wanted to kind of give a high level on. If you want to have any more in-depth conversations, I'm available. You can just reach out and email me. You can follow me on LinkedIn. So Regina Fleming, same profile pictures at the beginning. And then also Yar Cat Coaching. If you want any coaching tips, I post up there at least once a week or so, just different tips along the way and links to available positions or learning opportunities and things like that. So you can definitely feel free to pop in there as well. So with that though, I will shush it for a little while and go ahead and we can answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Thank you so much, Regina. That was very beneficial. I learned a lot myself. But yeah, let's get into some questions. So let's see. Kind of lost track of everything. So if I don't come across your question, please let me know. It says, what tools do you use for info/task tracking?
Oh yeah, so we did briefly touch on that. I saw that pop up, and so I made sure to kind of mention it in there. But Trello is a great skill to learn. I actually got a freelance contract based on just being able to use Trello. As everybody went through COVID and teams went remote, I actually had the largest real estate company in the US reach out to me to set them up on Trello and train them so that they could all stay in touch. It's something that's really tremendously useful. There's checklists. It's really customizable. And so I highly recommend using Trello or learning about it. The other one is Jira. Jira is a great project management tool that a lot of development teams use. So I recommend looking at that one as well.
Okay, great. And then how do you figure out what you want your brand and specializations to be in tech?
Ooh, that's such a good one because you're never going to know. I think it's like that question that you get asked, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I'm growing up and still trying to figure it out. And I think the reason for that is I think that instead of figuring out what your specialization should be, is figuring out kind of where you are right now and why you're in that right now. Then take what you enjoy about that and see what that links to, which specialization that really falls into, because we're always going to be better at things that we enjoy. So I recommend kind of starting with this kind of broad focus. And then as you figure out what you enjoy and what you can specialize in, then narrowing it down. So mine, again, was like front end development. I learned about coding and things like that. But then I figured out that it wasn't the building necessarily that I really liked. It was the result of the building and helping people learn how to use it and helping the builders kind of flesh that out. But I never would have gotten there if I had not taken the front end development course.
Got it. Thank you. And then the next question. So when you were going over the LinkedIn badges and certificates, so they're asking, do employees even look at certificates or, those badges we were talking about? So what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. And I will tell you, some employers do. I have had it specifically come up in a couple of my interviews. I think the main reason for doing it too is that it also, whenever recruiters are on LinkedIn, LinkedIn has these algorithms where it pulls information from your profile to match their job listings or what they're searching for. That's where those certifications and keywords are actually going to help you the most and be the most beneficial. It helps you kind of pop up higher on their list.
Great. And then tips on networking. How do you meet others to expand your network?
Yeah, absolutely. Google search. Of course, you can go in and kind of look for people in your area. So I am like, for example, in my area, we have a Facebook group that is women entrepreneurs, women in business, women in tech, things like that. I joined those groups and they have like monthly meetups where they get together for coffee and network. And of course, you can do it that way. Um, I will tell you that those in-person ones like that are more just networking and getting to know a small group of people. Um, if you're looking to reach a broader group, I recommend LinkedIn, but not just making a profile on there. You need to actually interact with people in your industry. Respond to their post, start conversations with them, and talk to them. I actually have a couple of recruiters at Blizzard that, because I am a gamer and they've mentioned things, that I started getting into like these gaming conversations with them about, like, my first game was Asheron's Call, and someone asked, oh, what is that? And it kind of expanded out from that. It wasn't even about like a job or anything. And so then when I did reach out directly to that person to ask them for information about a certain role, they did respond to me because they were familiar with me and my name kind of popped up and it was recognizable. So I think that instead of looking at it as a way of like networking and necessarily making connections, it's really more about conversations and building relationships with people. And that's going to be the way that you're most successful. So I recommend, like I said, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups. Stay in touch with the people that you're going to school right now. You guys are going to go on your other journeys. You have all of these people that are going to be going on the same journey as you that could be references, that could, you know, give you the thumbs up on LinkedIn for certain skills and things like that, and to utilize the connections that you're making right here as much as possible.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's see. Jacob's asking you a question. 1 or 2 Pokemon cards in your deck. I'm not familiar with Pokemon.
Okay, we're going to do that. Hold on one second.
Oh, no. I'm going to bring out the whole set.
The important things of the talks.
So, which deck do we want to look at?
Oh, wow.
This is not even
This could take a while.
Of my collection, and yes, they all broken down by type and trainer cards. But I do have to admit that my favorite Pokemon of all time, I think, is probably Ditto. I do still play Pokemon Go, and my screen name on there is A Sneaky Ditto. So there's that. Got called out. Call to action.
Yes, you did.
Oh, that is pretty impressive. That's a big stack.
Yeah, that's really, it's embarrassing. That's not even like half. And I just gave my nephews their own decks to get them started too.
Oh.
And it was a couple hundred cards each. So
Oh, wow.
Blush.
It probably took a while for you to collect all those.
Yes. And that's not even my Vanguard cards or my Magic cards. So that's why I did a high-paying job, was honestly just to pay for my cards.
Yeah, we just gotta have a tech talk of you just going through each set of cards you got.
Oh, yeah. Like we could game all day.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had a couple employees that are big into Pokemon, and we had one of our developers actually got tattoos on his arms.
Very nice. Very nice. That's dedication.
Yes. And then Matt is asking if you guys have oops, thank you, Chris. Thank you for letting me know that is not Regina's LinkedIn. I shared her LinkedIn in the chat, but sometimes my control copy just does not, control C just does not work. So let me just get that to you in a second. But yeah, if you have any questions, please leave it in the chat. It looks like Matt is asking if any of you have any GitHubs, but also feel free to leave your LinkedIns in here if you guys want to network with each other. I know we were just talking about networking, but here is Regina's.
Yeah, Regina, that's a great presentation. And
there we go.
I do have to say, communication is definitely one of your top skills.
Okay, sorry, I was glitching a little bit. But yeah, so if there are no more questions, I want to thank Regina again for joining us. And we are recording this talk, and then we're going to post it to our YouTube channel later today. And here's a link to watch the talk back. And you can also see all of our previous talks that we've posted on there. And then next Friday, of course, we're going to have another tech talk. And we are actually going to have a talk related to job search and basically how to land one of those higher paying jobs. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out. Let me just make sure it's the right link since the other one was wrong.
So
Yep.
Regina, I'm curious too. Do you have your own YouTube channel?
I actually am in the process of starting one. I'm going to be featured on the Bearded IT Dad for a 2-part YouTube presentation in the next few weeks. So you might want to check him out. He also gives a lot of good tips on entering into the tech fields, and he actually goes into specifics about like cybersecurity and kind of breaks them down. And so we're going to be doing one on product management since it's kind of new to the tech industry. And it's one of those things that not a lot of people know exactly how it works. So you might want to tune in there. But yes, I will be starting my YouTube channel. I'm on there already, but it's training videos for the software that I currently train on. So that's not going to be helpful for anyone.
Yeah.
But yes, that's going to be coming up. And I'll link it on my Yar Cat Coaching whenever it's live.
Okay, cool. And it's the Bearded IT guy?
Yes, the Bearded
Okay.
IT Dad.
Gotcha. Be checking it out.
Awesome.
No, that's awesome. Looking forward to it. All right. So again, thank you, Regina, so much for joining us. And also thank you, everyone else, for joining our Tech Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed today's talk, and I hope to see you guys next week.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Catch them all.
Bye,
Thanks, Regina.
Yes.
Great job. Thank you. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
We'll see you next week.
Have a great weekend.